Do you live in California and you're considering moving to Chattanooga? Well, in today's video, we're going to compare California to Chattanooga. But if you don't live in California and you live in a similar area, there's still a lot of differences that could apply to where you live, so stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Living in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My name is Junior Francisca and I'm an agent here in Chattanooga. Before we get started on the video today, as much as I love putting all this info out there and this content and helping you guys kind of figure out if you want to move here or not, what I like more is helping people with their real estate needs. So before we get started, I'm gonna put my number on the screen. Feel free to call or text. I'm always here to help. If you have any questions, if you're thinking about coming here or you need more explanations to anything I've talked about, feel free to reach out at any time. I will get back to you. And with that said, let's get into today's video. With today's video, we're going to compare California to Chattanooga. Now, we're going to be very general because California is obviously a huge state, and we're going to compare it to little teeny tiny Chattanooga. So it's going to be very general, very broad, and hopefully you can take certain things that we talk about and compare it to the city that you live in California or anywhere else that you may live and you're trying to compare to where you live as well. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is cost of living and home prices. Obviously, that's one of the main reasons or the main things people think about when they're trying to figure out if they want to make the move or not. So let's talk a little bit about that. California is way more expensive than it is here. So obviously, if you have a house there or you're making good money there, when you move over here and you sell your house, you're going to have a lot more money available to you to put in a house over here or a down payment or whatnot. Obviously, you don't have to use it all, but you definitely will have a lot more options. You know, a small house that you could sell over there will get you a nice, pretty big house over here. Another thing too that I just want to mention, if you are able to keep your high-paying job in California and work remote from Chattanooga, that's even better because now you're making better pay in California, but you're living in a lower cost of living area in Chattanooga. So that's definitely a plus. So if you can do that and if you can make that happen, I would definitely advise to do that. But if you can't, that's totally fine. If you're moving here for work in Chattanooga, the cost of living is so drastically lower that it's still going to benefit you. Okay, so getting into the differences in cost of living, I'm going to try to compare it to about 3 or 4 cities in California. Like I said, it's very general and I'm not going to be able to hit every city. So if you're living in somewhere that's not one of these cities, try to compare where you live to one of these cities, or you can check in the link in the description and I'll have the website where you can go and put your city to compare it to Chattanooga. So I'm going to try to put it next to me, the table, so that you can see for yourself, and I'm actually going to read it off here because we're just gonna go off of that. So as you can see here, if you make $100,000 in California, wherever you live, and you want to maintain that standard of living, that's what we're gonna compare from those cities in California to Chattanooga. So we're gonna start with San Francisco. So in San Francisco, compared to here, it's 53% lower in Chattanooga. So what that means is if you make $47,000 in Chattanooga, it's like you're making $100,000 in San Francisco, which is absolutely nuts. A 2-bedroom apartment for rent here in Chattanooga, it averages about $1,048. In San Francisco, it's $4,128. That is absolutely crazy. It is almost 4 times more expensive to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in California than it is in Chattanooga. Another thing, if you're wanting to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house here in Chattanooga, the median price range, which I've talked about in a previous video, is $360,000. For that same house in San Francisco is $1.2 million. That is absolutely crazy. So if you're moving from over there to here, if you have a house that's half of that, $600,000, $800,000, and you sell that house here and you have a lot of equity, you can bring that money here and put half the money that, a $500,000 house here, you can put $250 down, you can pay cash. You'll be a lot better financially here and be able to probably even afford a nicer house than you would over there. And we have, LA, Sacramento, and Bakersfield. You can just go down the list. You can pause the video and kind of compare, but it's absolutely crazy how much the price difference and the cost of living difference is when you compare from California to Chattanooga. It's crazy. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about now is kind of the weather and the outdoor nature life. Okay, so here in Chattanooga, we get a fair bit of humidity when especially compared to California. It's not as humid as Florida, but it's still pretty humid here. So a lot of times when people move from the West Coast to here, or even up north in the Northeast, they are pretty surprised at how humid it can get here in the summers. It does take some getting used to, and for some people that might be a deal breaker. And if that's you, maybe you could still live with it, who knows. But it is a fair bit more humid here when compared to California. Another thing too is, I'm not sure how the allergies and the pollen works in California, but here, especially in the spring and in the fall time, the pollen count rises a lot. So people that suffer from allergies or pollen or grass pollen, all that stuff, it will affect you pretty bad. A lot of times people that never have any allergy issues that come from Florida or anywhere else, they come here and it does affect them, and they might even get seasonal allergies. But there's medications you can take, and sometimes it's only for a couple weeks. It's not as bad, but just know that over here we have allergies that might affect you a little bit more. Something else I want to talk about is bad weather. We do get tornadoes here. We are not in the tornado alley by any means, but we get a tornado every 8 to 12 years. We had one 2 years ago, and before that was about 10 years before that. So they're not often, but it does happen. That's something you need to know. And compare that to earthquakes in California, you have to kind of decide which one you're more comfortable with. So just know that we do get tornadoes here. Another difference between Chattanooga and California when it comes to weather is, I believe, 99 days out of the year we get some form of precipitation, so like rain or whatnot. So it does rain quite a bit here compared to California, and I believe we get about 51 inches of rain when the national average is like 38 or so. So we're well above the national average when it comes to rain. But even though we get all that rain, we do get 207 days of sunshine compared to the national average of 205. So technically we're above average when it comes to sunshine. So all that rain and all that sun mixed together, what we have here is a very, very green, lushful nature in Chattanooga and in Tennessee compared to California, where it's more dry over there. So when you come here, a lot of people are very surprised at how green everything is, and because of that we also get all 4 seasons. So we get a very beautiful green spring and summer, and then in the fall we have fall, and we have the changing of the leaves, and we have all the different colors of the trees, and it's very beautiful. And I know a lot of places in California don't get that, so people move here for the 4 seasons. And with that we also get winter. Maybe if you live in certain areas in California where the weather is nice all year round, 70, 80 degrees, that's definitely a plus. Over here, we do get winters and it gets down to, 20s, 30s for maybe a month. But besides that, it's upper 30s, 40 degrees. It does get rainy and gray during the winter, so that's a downside. But we do get a beautiful spring, summer, and then in the fall when the leaves change, it's absolutely gorgeous. And it's definitely nice to have that little change from super hot to nice and cool for a couple months. One of the things that I just want to touch on real quick is the outdoor life here. Now, when we compare it from California to Chattanooga, I know California has a lot of outdoor activities and it's absolutely beautiful there as well. But from what I've heard from friends that have lived here in Chattanooga and actually live in California now, what they've told me is that even though there's a lot of areas that you can go to do outdoor activities in California, the issue is that you have to drive far to do those activities. So depending on what you want to do, you have to drive very far or, drive a couple hours to do whatever it is that you want to do. The good thing about Chattanooga is that we have an abundance of outdoor activities here locally in Chattanooga. So you don't have to drive farther than, I don't know, depending on where you live, 30 minutes to find any activities that you want to do outside. We have rock climbing, camping, mountain biking, hiking, backpacking, whitewater rafting, hang gliding. We have so many activities that you can do here, and it's all found locally, which is a big plus. And that's why a lot of people that love the outdoors, they move here because we're surrounded by mountains and there's so much things to do just locally. They don't have to travel anywhere. Of course, if you want to travel, we have 2 hours away, we have the Smoky Mountains National Park, which is absolutely beautiful. We have places everywhere just like California would, but if you like to stay and do things locally, we have all that here, which is definitely an awesome thing to have. The next thing that we're going to talk about is traffic and commuting to work. Just the other days, I was speaking to somebody that's wanting to move to Chattanooga, and they were kind of late to the meeting because they were commuting from work. And they were like, oh yeah, it took me 5 hours to come home. And I was like, aha, that's funny, how long did it really take? And they're like, no, seriously, it took me 5 hours. And I was like, you spent 5 hours on a car to get from work? And they're like, yeah, it takes me that long. And there's some squirrels over here. Squirrel! And that's absolutely crazy. So when we talk about commute, I know California has a lot of traffic, and you could spend a couple hours in your car just commuting to work and then a couple hours commuting back to work. In Chattanooga, a lot of people won't agree with this sentiment, but traffic is not that bad. It's nowhere near as bad as other places in the country, especially California. If you live on the very far east side of Chattanooga, in Uruguay or Apison, to go from there to downtown, it's 30 to 35 minutes tops, and that's with commuting in the morning to work all the way downtown, and that's if you work all the way there. So that's not that bad when you compare that to other places where it takes a couple hours. Another thing I want to talk about is the gas prices. I know in California, gas prices can be well over $4, and in Chattanooga, gas prices are about $2.50, maybe inching towards $3. So when you compare the couple hours that you spend in the car commuting plus the gas prices, if you translate that to 35 minutes tops plus half the gas bill, and you're not even spending that much time commuting, so you're going to spend way less gas, you can see the benefits of living in a city like Chattanooga. And let's say you, like I talked about earlier, you can keep that job in California and work remote. So now you have no commute. So you're saving all that time in the car, plus you're saving all that money in gas. And that's definitely a benefit if you're able to do that when you live here. And that's why a lot of people are enticed with living in a city like this, because of the commute is shorter and the gas prices are way shorter as well. The next topic that I want to talk about is taxes. Now, before we get started, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a professional. This is just very basic general guidance and kind of showing you the differences in some of the tax structures of California versus Chattanooga or Tennessee in general. So this is just for your knowledge. Please look further into it if this is something that, you know, it's really going to be a big factor in deciding whether you're going to move. So in Tennessee, we have no state income tax compared to California, which you do have state income tax, and I believe it's one of the highest in the country. So that's a plus right there. Another thing too is that Tennessee, most of their money that they make through tax is their sales tax. Tennessee has a set 7%, and then depending where you live in Tennessee, locally they have their own percentage. In Chattanooga, it's 2.25%, so you're going to pay a total of 9.25% sales tax in anything that you purchase. And, you know, housing taxes and all that stuff is kind of structured differently, and that can get very complicated. But definitely, as people talk to me coming from not just California, but New York and Illinois and Florida, like Tennessee is very tax beneficial when it comes to home taxes and income taxes, because we don't have any sales taxes compared to other places. So definitely look into that more and talk to a professional if that's something that's really on your mind, and that's really something that's going to be a big factor if you're going to move. But just know that Tennessee, you're going to pay way less tax. We have no state income tax, and probably our sales tax is much lower than California as well. So you're going to end up with a lot more money in your pocket, and that's definitely an advantage. The next topic I want to talk about is sports. A lot of people, sports is kind of, you know, their passion or things that they really like. So compared to California, California has a lot of pro sports. They have a bunch of cities with a bunch of pro sports team. Chattanooga, on the other hand, we don't have any major sports team, but we do have some lower tiered professional teams here. If you're into baseball, we have the Chattanooga Lookouts, which is a AA or AAA baseball team, and I think they're associated with the Cincinnati Reds. So, you know, their stadium isn't, you know, like an MLB huge stadium, but it is still a nice area where you can take your family or take your kids, or if you just like to see some baseball games, that's an option. For soccer, we have Chattanooga FC, which I believe they're in the third tier in the professional American Professional Soccer tier thing. We have the Chattanooga Red Wolves, and they're in USL, which I don't even know what tier that is. If you're looking for college sports, we do have UTC here, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. They're the Mocs, that's their logo, and they have a football team, they have basketball team, they have other sports too. Now, if you love professional sports and you just have to have that, you can go to 2 hours away south in Atlanta. You know, they have the Braves, they have Hawks, they have the Falcons, all professional teams in different MLB, NBA, NFL. Or you can go north to Nashville and you have the Predators, which is NHL. You have Nashville FC, you have the Titans. Like, so if you drive just 2 hours away, either way, you can definitely see professional teams. And if you have certain teams in California, maybe you can drive, you know, to Nashville or Atlanta and kind of go see when your team comes to visit, so you can still kind of get that atmosphere and kind of still see your home team when they come visit over here. So that's definitely a good thing to have. Okay guys, so with all that being said, I hope this video has brought some value to you, and I hope it has helped answer some questions or even bring up some topics that you might not have even thought about. Again, if you like these videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It helps me and supports me and helps this channel grow, and it helps reach more people that are interested in this type of topic. And with that said, again, if you have any questions or any follow-up questions with anything I've talked about today or something that I haven't talked about and you want to ask me, feel free to call or shoot me a text to the number on your screen. I will get back to you. So looking forward to talking to some of you guys. And with that said, until next time, take care.